abandoned ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, and we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and another Mandalorian after show, where we are going to talk and dive into Season 3, Episode 7, Chapter 22, The Traitors, with our good friends Darian, Dan, and your co-host Blake. And of course, we haven't touched the YouTini Book Madness for a little while because of Star Wars Celebration, so we'll be giving the quick last couple rounds of updates on that, seeing who the final winner is, the absolute best, most voted for Star Wars book out there. Let's get into it, shall we?
Another happy landing.
All right, Chut, Blake.
Hello there.
Hello there. Well, it's been another really, compared to last week's, I really had a good time with this week's episode.
Yeah, this one was really good. It was kind of night and day
Yeah.
from last week's episode. I'm sure everyone's heard us talk about that.
Oh, yeah. That was a fun recording with Bryce's first set of poodoos that he rated on that one.
That's right. The first poodoos have been flung.
Yeah. What a disturbing mental image. All right, let's introduce our friends to the show. Darian, it's been a hot minute since you've been on. Welcome back.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be back, Josh. I'm happy to talk about Star Wars and Lizzo.
Oh, yeah, Lizzo. Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a moment here. Dan, it's been a moment since you've been on. I think it was maybe even a year ago, perhaps. Welcome back.
It was the VR episode. Thank you. Happy to be back.
Oh, dang. Yeah, maybe even 2 years ago. Wow, it's been even more of a hot minute.
Time doesn't exist when you work from home, I think is how it works.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just time just kind of stays still. But it's one thing we should kick things off with, because of course, there's the whole Lizzo thing. We were talking about it off air, so I got to just throw it out there to the room. Darian, what was it you were saying with us?
I don't know what was more funny, Lizzo on the episode or hearing you guys talk about Lizzo and none of you knowing who Lizzo is. It's like you're a bunch of old people like, oh, she has that song In a Minute. It's like, that's not what it's called.
I 100% knew. Yeah. As soon as we started talking about it, no one knew what the heck we were talking about.
Yeah.
Well,
we
just dated ourselves.
She's pretty popular. It's like most dudes in their 20s or whatever would know who Lizzo is, but that's all right. Anyways, I thought she what did not belong in Star Wars. That's my opinion.
To be fair, I'm almost 50 and I know who she is, so it's not all old people.
Oh, man.
Don't know her.
Yeah, but Dan, you're hip.
Yeah,
that's true.
With the kids.
I think you're more hip than we are. I think you're more with the times. And
I know a lot about pulp culture more than I probably should.
Yeah, for sure. That's not something I admit to stay on top of, unless it's movie related. But that's the music world just.
So Dan, what did you think about Lizzo?
I didn't mind it. I'm not super into her music, but I like who she is, and I know her mostly because she was a host on SNL, and I liked her when she was on SNL. So when I saw her on the episode, I was like, okay, this is going to be a comedy episode, especially when she's paired with Jack Black.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate it. It's Star Wars has always had its cool stuff and its silly stuff, and that was obviously one of its more silly episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's for the kids.
It's for the kids. Yeah.
Before we go into this giant war where everyone we know dies.
Exactly. They had to do a lighter episode before a more serious episode.
Look, everyone's so friendly. You can get to know them, and then everyone's dead. It's like Game of Thrones.
What did you think of Jack Black? Because I remember Bryce saying that he was very thankful he didn't go full Jack Black in that episode, which I think would have been.
He was more reserved, which he wasn't doing his Tenacious D personality, and I thought he was fine. Honestly, the person that took me more out of the episode was, even though I liked seeing him, was Christopher Lloyd, just because.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
I enjoyed seeing him, but as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, he's gonna be the bad guy.
Right away.
Right away. It's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He's gonna be the guy that they're not suspecting. And
Yeah. How funny it would have been if they go to check in and the security desk, and he turns and just completely flat. Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. I mean, as far as an episode goes, though, I mean, I know we talked about it extensively last week, but, for any of those who hadn't tuned in or were with us in recording, I just felt like it was for me, it was a bit down the middle with whether I liked it. There was things that I really liked about it, and then there were things that I just really couldn't connect with that well. And I don't know. I think unanimously we all kind of felt that the overall plot was a bit fluffy, almost like it didn't really need to happen or play out that way.
I don't know if I say fluffy. To me, it just felt more like a Monster of the Week adventure serial kind of.
Absolutely, Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
So it was just really simple. But for me, the biggest thing that really took me out of it was the finale when they approached Christopher Lloyd and said he's called him out, and it just felt like a really bad stage play.
Yeah. Great Scott. It was cool to see him in there, but yeah, I totally know what you mean. All right, well, we got another episode this week, and of course it was what's the word? The penultimate episode. Second last before the finale of the season, which is hard to believe we're already there, but.
Semi-final.
Yeah, the semi-final, and kind of leaves some questions, of course, because it dropped on a huge cliffhanger. But there's so much cool stuff to talk about. So I'll read the summary here. We can just dive right in. Season 3, Episode 7, Chapter 22. I believe this one's called The Traitors. Moff Gideon is informed by Elia Kane of the Mandalorians' intent to retake their planet. Gideon relays this information to the Shadow Council, a group of Imperial remnant warlords. He requests reinforcements from Commandant Brendel Hux and questions Captain Paleon in his absence of the Grand Admiral Thrawn. Reassembling on Navarro, Bo-Katan unites the Mandalorian clans and prepares a recon party to explore the surface of Mandalore and locate the Great Forge. Before leaving, Greef Karga presents Din Djarin and IG-12 and Grogu, which is able to be controlled. Him driving IG-11 on Mandalore. He presents them with a bottle of wine and also this body for Grogu to be in. By the way, side note, I really hope that doesn't last long. On Mandalore, the group meets another surviving clan who is loyal to Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan admits that she surrendered to Gideon shortly after the Night of Thousand Tears, hoping that her people would be spared from further harm. The party finds the Great Forge but is ambushed by Beskar-enhanced stormtroopers. Din Djarin is captured by Moff Gideon, who reveals his intent to complete the Great Purge of Mandalore. He attempts to kill the search party, but Bo-Katan uses the Darksaber to make an escape for the group, with Paz Vizsla staying behind to buy time. Vizsla fights off the stormtroopers, but is killed by Gideon's Praetorian guards. And that was where the episode left off. So, lots of cool stuff to talk about. Just initial thoughts, everybody. Blake, maybe we can start with you. What do you think of this one?
I really enjoyed it. I think it was a good starter. I think going into the next episode, and maybe what's to come. And we get some drops of Thrawn returning.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool. It did feel a bit like we were missing a bad guy. So I will say, I like Gideon, so I kind of like where it's going. But because it didn't really reveal that he's back to the almost like the credit scene of the last episode. So it's a little bit shoehorned in, but I'm definitely interested to see where it's gonna go. As far as him taking on the I'm a pseudo Mandalorian thing now, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah. No, that was interesting and cool, but also kind of questionable. So
Oh, and the biggest thing that actually stood out to me, which I thought was really cool, is this to me feels like a coming together of the fan base take of Mandalorians, because you have like the old school original trilogy Mandalorian fans, where's like, you know, Boba Fett never takes his helmet off, it's like really serious.
Yeah.
And then like the very they're like hard trained soldiers or whatever. And then there's like the prequel side, right? With like Jango and what we got from Clone Wars, where they're like a pacifist nation. They turn back to their war ways. There's like a royalty, a line of royalty. And it's kind of like, this is like the two sides like coming together, right? Like the two clans. Like, we must unite the clans.
Yeah, for sure. Darian, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I honestly really like this episode. Just I love seeing all like the Mandalorians, or not all, like all the bounty hunters together and like that kind of thing. I really liked the guards at the end. I think they're called the Praetorian guards. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Praetorian
right.
guard, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're like super sweet.
Yeah,
the Roman guards of the were called that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so those guys were super awesome. I thought like the like elite like stormtroopers, whatever, were kind of cool too. And then Moff Gideon's suit, yeah, I kind of almost felt like, is it Iron Man, where like essentially they just build like a better Iron Man suit to like fight Iron Man in.
Yeah,
like Iron Man 2 or something. But yeah, honestly, really liked the episode. Really excited to see what's gonna happen next.
Nice. All right, yeah, Dan, what's your initial thoughts on this?
I hated it. No, this episode was great. Like I really enjoyed it right off the bat. Them being on Coruscant, it looked like Blade Runner. I thought that was really cool. Seeing that Imperial droid come in, like, and then introduce Moff Gideon back to the series, like that was cool. The effects I thought were really well done. The visual effects, seeing Moff Gideon's new suit was neat.
Mm-hmm.
I just had like a few minor gripes, but we can get into that later when we dive into if there's anything we didn't like. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It felt like I've really been enjoying this season, like for the most part, and this was like I think the strongest episode.
Yeah, I agree. It's
Agreed. Yeah,
it's interesting you say that that you've been enjoying this season as a whole, because like I've seen just a lot of people in general kind of question the overall story of season 3. I know we've kind of been speculating about where this season is going as well. So I mean, would you say it's like your favorite season so far, or just like that's just like a general kind of statement saying you've been enjoying it?
Just general statement. Like I would have to really look back on what the other two episodes went through, remind myself what happened in the other two seasons. But like I felt like I saw one review where they talked about how a lot of people are griping about this season. They're like, this season's been the most about Mandalorians than any other season, because it's all about Mandalore and like seeing the different tribes. It's not about Luke Skywalker. Like it's not about like.
How dare this show named Mandalorian?
Yeah. So it's like we're finally giving you about the Mandalorian culture and everything, and like people are complaining that they want like more of like the movies. It's like that's not what the show's about. So I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. I've been enjoying it too. There's been some really good episodes in here. But yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts were really just probably the best of the season so far. In my opinion, loved the Praetorian guards. Like, man,
that was a great scene.
I cannot begin to.
They kind of reminded me. Let's be honest. They look like the Praetorian guards from Last Jedi.
Yeah,
100%. Or weren't they the? I thought they were the same.
Aren't they?
They are the same. It's a style of.
Same name,
trooper.
But
same name.
The armor's different. If you look at the ones in Last Jedi, they're almost a little more like samurai. They have like a lot of flat plates.
Yes, yeah, they're
closer to the royal guards.
Right.
They're more scaly. The Praetorian guards from Last Jedi, and you guys can all just Google search an image on your end. But if you type in Last Jedi Praetorian guards, they have really clunky looking, goofy helmets, and not to say that. Flat hat. Yeah, not to say that in like a bad way, because like you're right, Blake. Like it's 100% kind of aiming for that samurai like kind of look, and with the sleevey kind of like the shingly kind of arms and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I just loved the way that they look in this episode because they look kind of like perfect mix of like armored up but not super clunky that it would inhibit their movements. And then they also, for some reason, just looked more intimidating. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like the way that their top like bit was kind of like slim with the bottom half with that skirt like kilt thing, and you know the cool looking knight helmet with like the, you know, it was Mandalorian-esque, but it was very medieval looking.
It had a similar T-slit.
It just had this, it just had this really like vicious, like kind of like intimidating look. And
you know what it reminded me of? It actually reminded me of the Emperor's guards from the prequels.
Yeah, the Royal Guards. Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
why
me
I
too.
loved them. Like the Emperor's guards, Imperial guards. But one thing I think like that really made them intimidating is just the way they move. They like in Last Jedi, they're like very like, oh, I'm gonna swing these weapons all around and do all this crazy like flourishes. Whereas these guys just went right in for the kill.
Yeah,
and they knew where to hit them. Like in between the armor, the Beskar armor plates, they went
exactly.
And just killed them
You know
immediately.
what? That there's actually a lot of historical, like reasoning for that too, because like medieval knights, they were eventually killed by people with like fencing swords and stuff, right? Because like it was small enough to fit in between the armor plates, so it's kind of the same idea.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that that you've mentioned that part as well, because it's they just kind of knew what they were doing in this episode. Whereas like not to throw like a boulder on Last Jedi again, but like it's just, I don't know, like I think a lot of that fight sequence was very intended to be stylized. These guys just kind of show up, they just did what they were there to do, and then they just walk off, and it's like, whoa, surgical strike. Yeah, exactly. Like that's why these guys
my only complaint is I forgot that guy's name, the big Mandalorian, but didn't
Paz.
he have a jetpack strapped to his back?
Paz Vizsla.
Couldn't he have just flown out of there?
That's what I was thinking that the whole time, because he's like, no, we have, I will save you, I'll sacrifice myself, and fights all those guys, but then he could just flown away.
Yeah,
because his gun was gone. He had his little tiny dagger, like vibroblade, fly away.
I guess like the thing is with the Mandalorians is like they're always looking, like true warrior Mandalorians are always looking for the death on the battlefield and not as a coward kind of running away, right?
That's a good point. So
like that's the only, because I totally agree, but that's the only thing that kind of lingers in my mind when I think down that path, because in Clone Wars they had a very similar way of thinking when Maul is leading his Mandalorian forces in the sewers, and he kind of gives a whole speech about this is not the way of your people, to die in the sewers, and like he's kind of talking, like amping them up, going like, I promise you a good death on the field of battle, and that's why they go and fight against the 501st up there on the upper levels and stuff like that. And I always think to myself like, oh yeah, you know what, like a good death for a Mandalorian is kind of one that they can control. And in the earlier seasons of Mandalorian, there was a Death Watch terrorist who blows up a bomb in the courtyard in kind of in front of Obi-Wan and Satine as they're going through a walk in the park. And he just takes his own life. Like he's fighting Obi-Wan for a little bit, and then he kind of just jumps off the balcony. And he didn't need to do that, but like either he was intending just not to reveal any secrets if he was questioned or what. But I think like it's kind of, in that mindset, they just kind of want to be in their own place when the moment comes, right? Mandalorian's also a great example when he was facing the Mudhorn. Grogu saved his life, used the Force, but he was just fully ready to kind of get killed by this thing. So he takes out his knife and he kind of kneels down, kind of waiting for the moment to happen, and it doesn't come. So all these moments kind of just came to me when I was thinking like, why doesn't he just leave? And it's probably just because he knew like, I need to give my friends, time to get away. This is the only way to do it, and I'm not going to do it and then run away myself. Like I want to do it and then die. It's kind of sad that he kind of orphans his own son, of course, but I guess it's this is the way, right?
This is the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, Praetorian Guard's amazing. I also gotta say that the color of the weapons, I like the evolution of the style of the character that they gave them. I like the fact that these weapons just kind of reminisced a bit more with the Magna Guards from the prequels and just other times that we've seen Electro-related weaponry. These just kind of connected a bit more on that level, whereas in The Last Jedi, they had this like red energy to them, and it's not something that we'd seen before. And I think this just kind of fit better in the context of what we already know and what we've already seen with a lot of lightsaber resistant or weaponry that can possibly cut through something. Like the purple energy just kind of felt a bit more natural. I don't know if that rang a bell for you guys either, but
yeah, that reminded me of the Magna Guards.
Yeah. And I just thought, like, well, if anything can cause any kind of more higher level of damage, like this just kind of made more sense, I guess. And I don't know, like I really liked it a lot. It was cool. It reminded me of the Old Republic trailer when that female kind of Jedi person with the yellow lightsaber just destroys those 6 kind of yellow lightsaber wielding tall ominous figures on that bridge. I don't know if do you guys know what I'm talking about? The Old Republic trailer?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, all right. I'll send you guys a link later, but it's a cool little fight scene. But they kind of remind me of that, and just like the way that they stood and held their presence, very tall and confident and just there to do the job. They make the Praetorian Guards look so much more awesome now in The Last Jedi, because now I know what they're capable of. Like now I know why there's like 6 of them in that room. It's like, it's like why he hasn't killed Snoke yet, because he literally can't do it. Like Kylo Ren like can't possibly fight all these Praetorian Guards by himself.
Yeah, and I feel like seeing them here, we also just saw more how they seem to have been trained as a unit. It's like they're fighting the like the name of the Mando guy there, but the
Az Vizsla.
Thank you. Yeah, they were dueling him, but he couldn't really do anything because as he would attack one, the other guys were already like counterattacking him, right? So it's like they're really well trained as a unit.
Yep, for sure. This episode kicked off with a really interesting. I mean, we kind of knew that Elia Kane is a traitor, maybe hence the reason why this episode is called The Traitors. But it says traitors, so I don't know if maybe there's another traitor. There's speculation that traitor. There's speculation that maybe there's someone in the Mandalorian ranks who could be a voice on the inside for Gideon. Do you guys share any of those thoughts? Do you think that maybe someone like the Armorer could be a possible traitor? Yeah.
I think, I forget, I was listening in on, maybe it was the last podcast. I feel like it was Kirk maybe, who when the Armorer asked maybe Bo-Katan about the Mythosaur. Yeah, it just seemed like, I don't know. She seems shady. And even in this scene where like she's like flying away in the ship in this episode, I don't know, just like the way they shoot her and stuff, it seems like they're setting her up to be a villain. Yeah. Or like someone on the inside.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's my wife's theory completely. She keeps thinking like she's gonna betray them, and I'm like, I didn't see it, but now hearing you say it, I'm like, oh, maybe there is something behind it. Like,
I thought it was interesting that they kept cutting back to her in the ship, like saving the injured or whatever. She volunteers herself to take the injured back to the home ship, right? And every time we're flashing back and forth between these like chaotic events, like we always just see like a small clip to build suspense, thinking, oh, something's gonna happen, right? With them going back to the ship. Nothing happens with that. And I just thought, like,
even like when they go through the clouds and stuff, you're like, is Moff Gideon's ship going to be there or something?
Right. Yeah.
And there wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was just kind of like, like, what are you doing, Rick? Director of this episode. But yeah, it's just, it was cool. It was cool that they kind of left us questioning a little bit of stuff for the finale. So, maybe episode 12 will roll around. Maybe this title of the episode will make a bit more sense. The Shadow Council, interesting part of this episode.
What a name!
Yeah, it was. Like, what a name!
You just want to sound evil.
It was very, very similar to Darth Maul's Shadow Collective, who that's the name that he gives his group of allies when he's building an alliance to take over Mandalore. So the combination of the Black Sun, the Pike Syndicate.
Could you imagine? Like, let's just say you're like a regular person who just is living in the Star Wars universe, and you find out like there's a section of the government called the Shadow Council. Like, what goes through your head?
Are we the bad guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's funny, right? Like, I mean, how much more ominous and evil can you possibly think of a name for a group of people? But I guess my kind of just I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed kind of seeing the this whole sequence play out. I mean, Moff Gideon, not only does he walk past more of those very suspicious bacta tanks, which, you know, people have been questioning what's inside those for a long time. Like, is it Snoke? Is it Palpatine? Is it maybe someone we don't know yet? And we got a bit more of that conversation. Like, he walks past all those cool Death Trooper commando troops, the Jet Trooper, not Death Trooper, Jet Troopers. And then he walks in that room with all the holograms. We saw some very familiar characters in there. First of all, Brendel Hux, who introduced to us in, of course, his son introduced to us in Force Awakens as Armitage
General Hux.
General Hux. But also he was Brendel himself was a prominent figure in the Aftermath trilogy. He was one of the chosen few, I believe it was, to help kind of usher in a new era for the Empire outside of the known space, to rescue a bunch of... he was in that group, right? He was in the group of people in which were supposed to be ushered out of kind of like an imperial exodus of important people. He was part of that group that kind of made it out when the rebellion was taking down the Empire in that final year leading up to the Battle of Jakku. So
from that book trilogy that came out, right?
Yeah, the Aftermath trilogy. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so that was very cool to see him. By
the way, was that the first time we got the secret code name for what becomes the First Order?
The Shadow Council?
No, there's a name. Hux is in control of Operation. What's it called now?
It's
like when you raise the dead. This is what the word is.
Right. Necromancer?
It's like necromancy or something.
Yeah. It's,
he says it in the episode, but
he does.
I thought that might have been the first time we actually heard what the First Order code name is.
I think it's Project Necromancer. And
that sounds right.
It's Project Necromancer. I just watched it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So Project Necromancer, like that's something that they haven't talked about before. Like, it's not something that's shown up in any previous story or anything like that. It's a new term. It's a new project. My curiosity is piqued with his. It turns out that Brendel is the one with the obsession of cloning technology. And it's interesting to me that he's the one with the obsession of cloning technology, and also is the lead on the Project Necromancer. Maybe they go hand in hand, right? Which I thought was very interesting. We've had... is everyone here up to date on the Bad Batch?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've never seen an episode of the Bad Batch, but you can go ahead and spoil away.
Okay, all right. So the show
they all die.
The show has been teasing this location that we keep popping up as a very secret Imperial base called Mount Tantus, which is on the planet Wayland, and it's a location that has not only shown up in canon so far, but is also a prominent location within Star Wars Legends. And this was also a location that popped up in such stories like Heir to the Empire and I think Outbound Flight, which was also another Thrawn story. And Mount Tantus was created by Timothy Zahn, first for the Heir to the Empire. And this particular location is one that housed one of Palpatine's secret storehouses. It was considered like a forbidden place to be. and it had something to do with Grand Admiral Thrawn's secret cloning program during his campaign. And not to say that this is going to be a complete repeat of events, but I think it's very interesting that in the canon now we're also getting a story with Mount Tantus, also with a project that involves cloning. And now we're getting characters like Brendel Hux popping up, these mysterious Bacta tanks that keep showing up, whispers in this particular era of the Empire, knowing that Thrawn is going to make his inevitable return in Ahsoka, as we've seen from the trailer. It just kind of like, it's kind of connecting the dots in my head, going like maybe Project Necromancer, Mount Tantus, Brendel Hux, this cloning technology, it's all kind of connected. And,
do you think that they're gonna find Luke's hand and make Luke with 2 U's?
Yeah, I mean, like we know from the Darth Vader comics that Snoke is a product of Luke's DNA, right? Like, which is kind of weird.
Wait, he is?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
There was a small panel with it kind of alluded to the fact that Luke's hand was found, and it was kept in containment in a Bacta tank on Exegol, and the evil scientists there or whatever were I guess using it as a resource to harvest midichlorians from, or something to make Snoke possible, because we know from Star Wars that making a force sensitive clone is supposed to be impossible, and I think that's why Palpatine's bodies never quite work for him, right? Because they fail, and he's searching for a solution to kind of make a permanent transition to a body that's not going to degrade on him. And I guess Snoke being this like Frankenstein kind of thing could be in relation to this effort in trying to make a body for Palpatine, because Palpatine does say in Rise of Skywalker that he made Snoke. So maybe one thing leads to the next. Maybe it's all kind of connected somehow, right? And I guess I'm really just excited for seeing kind of the outcome of like what happens with all this stuff. I mean, Captain Paleon, another heir to the Empire character, making his return to Star Wars with this particular episode in Mandalorian, that was very cool to see.
I did like that they mentioned Thrawn, and then like Gideon's like, who's this Thrawn guy? Like, I don't care. Like, he's like, knowing who Thrawn is and how powerful he is, like, I'm like, oh, you have no idea who you're messing with.
Yeah. It's it's cool. I mean, because like Gideon right now kind of sees himself as like the center point, right? Like the kind of the leader in a little bit of ways. He says, he kind of throws Thrawn's name around as if it's, he's like, well, you keep saying that Thrawn is inevitable return, but you're right. I think he doesn't really quite see the see a world in which Thrawn kind of supersedes him in the order of events kind of thing. Right now, it's just a group of warlords all kind of doing what they do to serve the Empire in their own kind of selfish ways. But I guess it could be very interesting. I think what we might be looking at is maybe a possible like fatal end for Moff Gideon at some point in the near future, so that Thrawn can kind of replace him as like the main villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Captain Paleon though, he was also introduced in Heir to the Empire, I think it was. That was
in the original
cool.
book series. He's Thrawn's second in command. In the book series though, he was a little bit bumbling, but he had the same thick mustache that he has here in the show.
Right. I must be misremembering, but Blake, maybe you can refresh my memory, because you watched Star Wars Rebels a second time more recently than I have. I'm seeing on Wikipedia that he was actually reintroduced in the canon in the final season of Rebels. Do you remember him being a character that popped up, or maybe that's just like, maybe it's just a small cameo that most people might miss?
Honestly, I think I would have missed it too. I wouldn't have realized those were the same guy as the books.
Okay, all right. Well,
I'm rewatching Rebels right now, so I'm on season 3, so I'll let you know once I hit season 4.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Just look for a guy with a big white mustache.
Yeah, exactly. What'd you guys think of IG-11's kind of successor in the form of IG-12?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
To be honest, I didn't really like it. I think it was like overdone, the whole like yes, no, like it just.
It reminded me
know.
a bit from the original Tron movie. There's this little guy that followed trotting around going yes, 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 no, no, no. Like
Oh
it
yeah,
reminded me of
yeah.
that.
So I'm gonna. Okay, so is that something you liked or didn't like then?
I I didn't mind him being in the suit. Him going through the market and like just being a nuisance reminded me of Jar Jar from Phantom Menace. And, like
True.
it bugged the crap out of me. I'm like, when Grogu's just sitting there being cute, I like him. When he's like being a little child and just like eating everything, I always hate those scenes. And every episode he does this.
Reminds you,
That pays the
this goes to
bills.
Your parent.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's reminding me of my own kid, and like it's traumatizing me.
Yeah,
PTSD kicking in.
yeah. Blake, what'd you think of this one?
I'd say I probably didn't like it. I thought it was really cheesy. I feel like they just needed to get him out of something, like out of the carriage bubble thing he's been flying around. I think it's probably the idea. He's a little more practical. I mean, we might. I will say one of the things I was most taken aback by is I think Grogu seems older in the way that he can drive this thing around, or he feels less toddlery. So maybe that's what they're trying to do, because as we see him out of the suit, he is like this young bumbling toddler. But when he's in the suit, we're learning that he can recognize yes and no and can actually move ligaments and do stuff like like an older, more grown and fulfilled mind. Because technically he's 50, so maybe they're trying to get the audience perspective away from him being this small toddler.
Right. I don't think it helps with him in the market stealing food and stuff. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's the other side of it. So it's like one step forward.
Don't you think they honestly do that to like? Do you think one could even argue that? Do you think they intended Grogu to still be here in season 3, or is it the fact that like he sells tickets to the parks?
I've been wondering that for a while. I almost feel like he wasn't supposed to be here. He was supposed to be with Luke. But maybe was the original story intention.
Yeah.
Because even just him being a Mandalorian to me is just bizarre.
Yeah, like it's just he seems kind of a hassle. He's like always like there and like always like he's kind of like Omega and Bad Batch. Like just like ends up being more of a problem than a solution.
But on top of that, because of his age situation, he's going to be a toddler for the next 250 years. So, like anything, Din Djarin will die, and he will have aged like half a year.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, are we ever going to see him talk? And, the answer is probably not,
Oh, and so the first, I kind of chuckled because I started to wonder if they're going to, in the suit, gonna give him like a Stephen Hawking situation where he can like talk through a computer.
Oh man, I think, when it comes to an idea like that, I can't really get on board. You know what I mean? It's just a bit too much. I think, if they're gonna do anything with the character, they got to do something more creative than, an exoskeleton kind of like super robot that he drives around in. Is just a little much for me to take in. It was cool. It was kind of like adorable and cute, I guess, for one episode. But yeah, I really hope it doesn't stick. It's like I'm not complaining about it yet, but I'm just kind of worried that this will kind of linger too long. Then it's
just laying the foundation of complaining later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they spent a lot of time setting it up, like with the statue and trying to get the circuit board. I'm like, this is where you went with all that.
True.
Like,
yeah. I felt the exact same way. Yeah. So we also had a bit of a interesting reveal from Bo-Katan that she actually kind of fills in the gaps a little bit how the Darksaber came to Gideon's possession. This also kind of reveals or plays up in a later moment in the episode when Gideon comes out in his Mandalorian armor, because through war tactics, he technically, kind of earned, or I guess got the Darksaber from Bo-Katan by sending her into submission, right? So I guess until Din Djarin, that is, wins it back off of him. But I guess one could almost argue that he's a bit of a kind of outsider, sort of unrespectable leader of Mandalore for a very short, brief period of time.
Let's not forget this is exactly what Darth Maul did.
Exactly, yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, which would lead reason to him having Mandalorian armor when he pops out at the end of this episode. So to me, it didn't really feel like it was out of place. I don't think it was there for like the 100% idea of, this is only because it's lightsaber resistant. I think it's basically trying to kind of make this like dark kind of parallel to the idea that this guy for a number of years once really truly held the dark saber in custom with tradition, right? Which is pretty crazy to think about. So he also kind of reveals his evil plan, combining the Jedi, the Mandalorian, and what else did he say?
Cloners. It was he said cloners, Jedi, and the Mandalorians.
Cloner, yeah, that's right. Yeah, cloning research.
Kaminoan.
Yeah. So I guess I don't really know what to think anymore. Like, is this Brendel Hux's obsession? Is it his obsession? Like, I don't even know. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this thing kind of closes up. But what did you guys think of that whole reveal with, maybe we can start with you, Darian, reveal of Bo-Katan's kind of surrender, and then also anything to do on this Moff Gideon armor?
Yeah, I can chat more about the armor. Like I said, it just kind of felt like, to me, who's not as familiar with like the Bo-Katan side of things, and you're saying now how him having the armor like kind of pays homage to the fact that he had like the Darksaber and stuff. Like, the way I see it as more of a casual viewer is just like, I don't know, it seems like he's just trying to like one up the Mandalorians by like having this black suit that's Beskar. But I don't know. It's kind of like, it's cool and evil. Like, I was even just rewatching the scene of him like walking in and how like over the top ridiculous it is.
I will say, I think part of the idea with the armor is like, one hand is Mandalorian, but at the same time he is ISB, and ISB traditionally wear black shiny armor.
Right. It also even like kind of gave me like Darth Vader kind of vibes, we'll say. Maybe that was just me, but like just with kind of like the different colors on the chest and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's me.
I would say for the armor though, one thing that I wasn't fond of was the horns on the helmet, but that really reminded me of the Darth Maul Mandalorians. If you remember they all added horns to their helmets.
Do you think maybe that's intentional? Do you think maybe that's kind of where it's going? Perhaps he does have some kind of connection to...
Oh, I didn't think about that. What if he was a Mandalorian under Maul?
Exactly, right? Like we don't really know too much about his past before he was Moff Gideon, right? Like was he a Mandalorian? Like he's never admitted it, but like
true,
he could be, right? He's got this obsession with Mandalorian people, so like we don't know. And that's definitely a possibility. There's also maybe some connection to the armor having horns on her helmet as well. And like maybe she was under Maul's tutelage or servants service at one point, just as he was, or something like that. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why the episode's called
Death Watch.
Death Watch. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, like we don't really know a whole lot about either of their pasts, right? Yeah,
those are good points.
Yeah, Dan, you got anything on this?
I thought it looked badass. Not having seen Clone Wars, I didn't know anything about the horns, but I thought it looked really cool and menacing on his helmet. And it reminded me, there's this comic from Marvel called The Micronauts, and the main bad guy has armor like that has like these horns on his helmet, called Baron Carva, I believe. And it reminded me of that, so I thought it was really cool looking.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, cool.
Did you guys know it was Moff Gideon right away?
I could tell through the voice. through the voice.
Right.
The cape also kind of gave it away because
Yeah.
he never doesn't have that cape on. I think it is kind of funny that they managed to get his cape on even with a jetpack. It's like, man, you gotta like I don't know, maybe it's just like a stature thing that he just has to have this cape on. But I thought it was so goofy looking when he flies off. And it almost looks
Just
like there's been
replacing
a
them
hole.
all the time. 'Cause
Yeah, it just looks like there's been a hole that's cut out for the jetpack. So when he flies off, you see the jetpack behind him, but it almost looks like it's been magnetized over top of his cape, so that it's
Legend.
It's like it's so funny, yeah.
Some fireproof material.
Yeah, exactly right. But no, I thought it was cool. I thought his chest plate did have some very Boba Fett vibes. He's got the kind of like scrolling lettering on the part of the breastplate, kind of near the heart area.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
Yeah, he's also got that very Mandalorian looking kind of diamond shaped thing in the center. The helmet had like a red lens to it, which kind of goes hand in hand with the inner part of his cloak. But yeah, the horns were kind of most intriguing to me. I just thought that was a very curious choice. If it's not supposed to play homage to Maul, perhaps it's supposed to kind of represent sort of like a crown, which kind of plays into my theory as to, this guy did once hold the Darksaber. Maybe it's kind of like an homage to the fact that he is, in some twisted way, kind of a leader of the Mandalorians, or I guess ruler of Mandalore, seeing as he's got this entire Imperial base there. Which, by the way, I have a hard time believing that Mandalorian and Grogu managed to go there, and Bo-Katan shows up.
Yeah,
They
true.
have that whole earlier section in the season where they're there for like 2 episodes, and somehow they go completely undetected by like whatever was there the whole time. And I just thought that was like what? Like, how did they not notice that they were there? You know what I mean? Like this whole Imperial base, you'd think they would have like perimeter scanners or something like that. That would be, I know it's a big place, it's a big planet, but like to me, I just thought, okay, I don't know why they can't detect why they were there earlier on, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, what do you guys think of this Beskar enhanced stormtroopers? Blake, maybe you got any theories on these guys? You know what they are? The audio description labeled them as 2 things. One was a flying commando, and the other was armored commandos. But two times in the audio description, they were described as commandos. So do you think this...
Commandos I buy. I don't know if they have Beskar, though, because I kept getting shot and dying, unlike the Mandalorians.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird, too. The Wikipedia entry had the Beskar Enhanced Stormtroopers label on it. I thought that was kind of interesting as well when I read it, because like I just copied and pasted this from somebody else's writing. So maybe they're not Beskar Enhanced. Maybe they're just, I don't know, regular
Besco defendants.
But aren't they the ones that helped free Moff Gideon, or was that implied, or are we still thinking that it was some sort of a Mandalorian?
They revealed that. Yeah, could be.
I think they do have Beskar and armor, but I think because it wasn't Mandalorians that made the armor, maybe they made it with imperfections. They didn't.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it's stronger, but it's not as strong as the Mandalorian armor. It's like built by the armor. Who knows what she's doing?
Right. Yeah, so it's not... So you're saying maybe it's like a new type of alloy, not like 100% Beskar armor.
Yeah, they like we got to crank out all these armors really fast. Like, let's just melt down this armor and put it into our thing. But they didn't really do it right.
The Imperial way.
Yeah, they hired the Trade Federation to
right.
do it.
No, that's a good theory. I do...
I would say I really like the design, because the helmets especially look like they're like skull-ish. I think it looks super cool. But I'm looking at it now, it almost looks like if you took one more step between like the Clone Trooper Phase 2 and like specifically like Jango's armor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does kind of look like that. I'm going to bring up a similar topic of conversation here to go hand in hand with this, which is the Imperial Super Commando. We've seen these guys in Star Wars Rebels. They're kind of more closely based on Ralph McQuarrie's concept for Boba Fett. And Rebels ended up using that design to create an idea that there were a group of Mandalorians who sided with the Empire. and they were led by I hope I don't get this name right. I think it was Gar Saxon, but it could be somebody else. But yeah, they dressed head to toe in like white armor, but they had the red Imperial badge on their arm. And they did have jetpacks, and they kind of like, they didn't look similar to these guys, but because the helmet is totally different, I feel like
I shared an image in the chat because I was looking at them too.
Yeah, like I guess I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Like, do you think that maybe these could be next generation Imperial super commandos, but perhaps not actual Mandalorians in the armor? Like, do you think that maybe that's
what it feels like because they're so similar? But the main thing, as you're just saying, is the original Super Commandos. Those were actual Mandalorians that switched sides to the Empire, and their armor wasn't Beskar; it was plastoid, same as the Stormtroopers.
Right. Yeah, no, I just thought it was kind of curious. But Dan, you've seen Rebels through, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
well, not all the way through. I'm on the 3rd season now.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I forget. In the 3rd season, have they shown up yet?
Not on that. Not as far as I've watched too.
Okay. All right. Then. Sorry for spoiling it then.
No worries.
But yeah, they were. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking. When it came to, I guess, who these guys are. But then again, if that's what they were, I have a hard time believing that they were just playing guard duty, wherever Moff Gideon took that hologram. So. I don't know. I guess we'll maybe find out later. But I did think it was interesting that they used the word commando to kind of describe who these guys were. So
well, I was wondering if those clone vats that he walked past, if he's just doing new clone troopers, but like that's what those guys are, just in the armor. Like he's cloning new bodies and putting them in that. Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good theory as well. I mean, maybe he is using those back to tanks successfully. How crazy would it be if one of those guys lost their helmet and we realized it was like a very twisted looking Tamura Morrison underneath that was like kind of like a bad looking clone or whatever? Like that'd be pretty nuts. Or how crazy would it be if it was actually like a Mark Hamill looking face? It's like, yeah, it's like beginnings of Snoke right there.
Speaking of Rebels, did anyone think, like, when they found that land roving ship that had the surviving Mandalorians on it, like, to me, when that showed up, that reminded me of when they found in Rebels that walker with the clone troopers, Rex and
it did,
those few other guys.
Yeah, it felt very similar, didn't it? Yeah, that moment. I liked that a lot. I liked that kind of like land cruising boat looking thing. That was pretty sweet. It was good design.
That was cool. It's like something you see like sliding across like the ice. Like it's all glass. The planet's all glass now.
Yeah, that's really cool seeing that.
Yeah, very, very nice kind of visuals. And
there's a lot of pirate themes in this season.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
yeah, true.
I'm digging it. It's very very kind of in line with like,
Oh man. What's that? Waterworld. It's a very Waterworld kind of.
It is.
Like.
Yeah, Mon Calamari?
No, the movie Waterworld.
The movie Waterworld,
Oh,
which
gotcha.
it's like Mad Max, but the idea is all the ice caps have melted, so the entire world is flooded, so everyone lives on boats.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Oh.
Yeah, Kevin Costner. So.
Huh.
Universal California used to have like a Waterworld
stunt show. It's good.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Oh wow. I think I missed that. Yeah, that was I'll have to look.
Yeah, it was totally Mad Max. Like they would fight over fuel because that's like a very important commodity when there's no land.
Right. Keep the ships alive, I guess. Right. Yeah, no, that's cool. I love the design of that crazy massive monster creature. We haven't even talked about that. That was kind of interesting to see. I didn't realize that creatures like that existed on Mandalore.
Yeah, well, it's like not brought up at all. It's just out of nowhere, these giant creatures.
yeah, it's like maybe I don't know. Like
they did say like since the planet got bombed, like a lot of stuff has been on Earth. Like like maybe these are Mandalore's Balrogs.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's
like Sindari City. It was just like a dome. It's not getting smashed apart.
I thought it was going to be the Mythosaur at first coming out.
Yeah,
I
no,
do.
it's a good point. Yeah, because at first you don't really see what it is, right? And then it ends up being this kind of Godzilla like looking creature thing or whatever with like a spiny back and big long
Dinosaur, yeah.
dinosaur tail. Yeah, yeah. It was a very random appearance just because it's so brief. But
Yeah, it was like, we just gotta destroy this boat, so let's just have this random monster show up and destroy it, and then that'll be the end of it.
yeah, exactly.
The director of this episode just really hates pirates. Just get rid of their boats.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of just like done, and then we move on. It was.
Yeah.
Why? It's a good question. I don't know why.
Maybe it'll pop up
it.
again. Maybe it'll pop up again. I don't know. But yeah, it's a question. It's a question. Did you guys have anything you wanted to bring up that I may have missed over here?
I thought it was awesome seeing that giant Imperial ship show up, flying over the city that Carl Weathers was in with the giant Mando symbol underneath it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask how long with the size of that ship.
Who painted that?
Yeah, say they have like 10 guys. So like, how long do you think it took to paint that?
It's so symmetrical and perfect, too.
Lizzo probably did it.
Picks nerds.
That's a great scene, seeing all those ships. I love the Mandalorian ships that like fold. I don't know what they're called, but it's a great design.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the one Bo-Katan drives?
Yeah,
Or flies?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I like seeing them all, like, it's just like Clone Wars, like when all the Mandalorians are in the back, like kind of just like ready gearing up, and they like fall out of the bottom and use their jetpacks. It's like really cool.
Yeah, I like that too. I have like a parachute bay.
That's putting a lot of trust in your jetpacks.
yeah.
True.
for sure.
But it's a cool sequence.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. They're called Commerk class fighters, and pretty much only used by Mandalorians. But what's Bo-Katan's called? Is it just called the Gauntlet or something? Also called yeah.
I do
These are also
recognize
called,
that name.
They're also called Gauntlet Starfighters. So yeah, people call them Gauntlet for short. But I guess
Because they run the gauntlet.
I don't know. I guess so. Yeah. So all right, cool. Yeah, you good, Blake, Darian. Nothing else to.
I thought the like just after the scene with Moff Gideon, like all like the ships in like the hangar bays looked really cool. How they're kind of like hung like bats, like that just seemed really cool.
Like
Oh yeah.
like spiders dangling down or something.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
And like
You were
all like
seeing
the lighting in that scene is just like super cool.
Seeing the bombers up close, like they looked ferocious. Like everything looked really good.
Yeah, that's a great point. This is the first time we've actually seen a bomber kind of that close up, because I think the only other time we've seen them that close is the only time they've really ever shown up, which is Empire Strikes Back. But
Yeah, it's overhead shot for those.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think this is like kind of the first kind of hero shot that we've had of them, and yeah, they're cool looking ships. Like I've got one in Lego, and it kind of looks nothing like it because it's like they're basing it off of like 5
You have to
pixels
buy
long.
the new one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some great shots in this episode. It was beautiful looking.
One thing I noticed is like I don't know how much stagecraft is still being used, but like they've really upped their game on using it, because you can't tell anymore that it's like
Oh
stagecraft.
no, I was literally just gonna complain about one scene.
Oh, really?
It's very stagecrafty.
Which scene?
It's when they first start fighting the jump troopers.
Oh yeah.
It's like they're all standing within like I don't know, like 10. It feels like a 10 by 10 box. It seemed like an excuse that they're on like a cliffside, but the fight between the two sides to me just felt really
restricted.
Restricted, yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. It was just it it'd almost be like if you watch someone like playing VR and they're like in a box and they're shooting a bunch of CG things flying around. It kind of felt like that to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And anytime you get those very small scale, kind of choreography looking fight sequences or like chase scenes or whatever, you just know that it's in the volume. Like those speeders in Book of Boba. It's like, man.
Oh god. Let's not speak of those speeders.
I apologize for bringing it up again, but like the rate that they travel, it's like you just know that there's a dude walking next to them with a camera, and the surroundings is virtually whizzing past them. You know what I mean? Like it's like you just know that those speeders aren't traveling more than like 2 kilometers an hour on a set of tracks. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like some limitations kind of still bear their ugly head, I guess, with being in a dome.
I would say in this case, it was a choreography issue. So I felt like if they had tried to make more integrated between the two and like quicker cuts always help, right? With stuff like that. Instead, they did a lot of wider shots with people that can't move very much, which kind of breaks the illusion in my mind.
Yeah. I think a combination of more kind of full CG shots or something would have been good as well, just to kind of like have those moments where they're just kind of, you know, diving in and off the cliff and flying around and kind of shooting each other in the air, kind of like what they did with Clone Wars. Like you look back at some of those Mandalorian battles in Clone Wars, they're amazing. And there's just, you know, sky's the limit when everything's kind of being done in like a virtual space, I guess. But
it's not to say the whole thing was bad either, because like there was some one-on-one fights. Once the Imperial soldiers were like amongst them and there's more melee combat, it looked good. But it was when they were like shooting back and forth, I thought it looked really rough.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah. Right. Well, I guess that sums it up for this episode, and it's time to give us some Pablo points or poodoos. So for those who don't know, it is our rating system for this particular podcast that we've adopted as of this year, in which it's a scale of 7. All right. So 3 Pablo poodoos is the absolute worst. Moving up from there, you know, you got 2 Pablo poodoos, 1 Pablo poodoo, and then you got the middle, which is the Bendu. That's like a 50% score. You know, didn't like it, didn't hate it kind of thing. And then you go into the Pablo point range, which is 1, 2, and 3 in the positive section, 3 being the absolute best. Does that kind of make any sense? Does everybody?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Dan, why don't you kick things off?
I give it a 2.
2 Pablo points?
Yeah.
Nice.
I really enjoyed the episode. It wasn't perfect because there was a few nitpicks here and there, but yeah, say 2.
Awesome.
2.5.
Awesome. Darian.
Agreed. Yeah, I would say 2. Good episode.
Awesome. Blake, where are you at with this one?
Surely not a lot of variety here, because I was thinking 2.5 as well. Because it was just really good. It was just there was only just a handful of caveats which we kind of went over here. So
yeah,
I'll break the mold a little bit and say 2.5.
This one stood out to me a lot. I mean, we got the death of Paz Vizsla in there, Praetorian guards showing up for the first time, the Shadow Collective, so many cool cameos from, you know, Hux and Paleon and mentions of Thrawn, and yeah, like there was so much to enjoy about this. I gotta say the only gripe was really just the IG-12 unit, and that's
probably
much
the biggest thing.
Yeah, that was like the biggest one for me, but it's still, again, it's like kind of preliminary complaints there, so I can't really count that towards my score. So I think I'm gonna say like maybe like a 2, you know, maybe just north of a 2. But yeah, I think 2 Paulo points is kind of a good spot for this one. It was great, enjoyed it a lot. There was a lot to like, and there we have it. I guess unanimous.
I love that you go on like this big explanational tangent to end up in the exact same situation.
Have you lined up differently on the other episodes, or is it? Do you guys usually agree?
Usually like plus or minus like 2 points, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the last week's episode was the most contrasted. I think Bryce was his first 3 Pablo Poodoos. He just absolutely
he really hated it.
He absolutely hated it.
Even the beginning and ending, like when they're dealing with
I think
Bo-Katan?
so. Yeah, he just hated the whole thing. And I don't know. I think it was just a bad week, but it's just like for me, I forget what I put it at. Was it 1 Pablo point? I think I gave it.
Yeah,
like
I think so.
I think it was 1 Pablo.
I was 1 Poodoo. He was 3 Poodoos. Maybe 2, and then yeah, you were like 1 point.
Yeah.
I think I'd give it 1 point. I think I would agree with that.
Right. Yeah. I just like, I didn't hate it that much. There's been definitely worse things I've seen and read and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Like, while we're on the subject, Darian, what would you give last week's episode? Just out of curiosity.
Probably 2 Poodoos. Question for you: what would you give 3 Pablo points?
Oh, 3 Pablo points. I mean, that's like George,
Like Rise of Skywalker, maybe.
That's like George Lucas's Star Wars movies for me. I think they all kind of deserve a 3 Pablo points. But yeah, it's anything that really ticks all the boxes, right? Like, does it contribute to the lore? Does it have good character development? Does it have a good larger story arc? Does it connect to the audiences? Does it have good, maybe like a good moral to it or something like that? And I feel like if it doesn't really connect, like tick all of those boxes, I can't really give it 3 Pablo points. That's just how I look at it. But everyone's got their own idea of what it should be, which is why it makes it such an interesting rating system, because you can kind of tell. It's like, all right, if it's under the halfway point, it's like you didn't like it, but like how much did you not like it, right? And I think that's where it differentiates from like a 1 through 10 scale, because like I guess if it's less than 5, it's like that could be considered you didn't really like it, but then again, it's like so much more room for fluctuation in there. But sometimes we make a joke out of our rating system. We'll give it like 1.7568 Pablo points or something like that. Like what was it? What was it you're giving it, Blake?
It was like 2 3/16.
Yeah, 2 3/16. It's like it's a rating system meant for a bit of a joke, meant for a bit of a laugh, I guess. But yeah, let's wrap things up here with one final look at the YouTini Book Madness. And then we'll call the day. All right, so we got the final results of the YouTini Book Madness, and the people are happy, people are excited. It's been interesting. It's been fun to kind of see the results kind of come in and just see how it all kind of plays out. So I think where did we leave off, Blake? Do you remember where? I think we were looking at round 3 or something like that.
I thought we only did 2.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think because you're away for a little bit there, so I think there may have been a week or 2 that I was going over things with Bryce there, but yeah, I think we left off. Actually, Darian, maybe you can recall. I think maybe you've heard more of the recent weeks than I have. Were we on round 3?
Darren just went up the airlock.
Oh, did he?
He's floating out there. I can see him.
Oh, he was floating out there? Oh, man.
Yeah, he's floating away. He's trying to swim towards us.
Oh, dang.
Oh, now he's not moving.
There he goes. There he goes. Okay, well, maybe he'll be back. All right. Well, in round 3, we've got. Let's see. I think we left off with Thrawn versus Darth Plagueis, I believe, or maybe it was Kenobi versus the High Republic. Okay. Well, yeah, we got winning results. Thrawn came out on top of Darth Plagueis, so rest in peace, Darth Plagueis. It was too bad. That was the one I was voting for, so that's too bad.
Yeah.
And then we had Kenobi versus the High Republic, the Rising Storm. That's the second book in Phase 1. And the High Republic beat out Kenobi. And then finally we had Darth Bane trilogy versus the Han Solo trilogy, and naturally Darth Bane won. That gave us with our round 4 results. Thrawn trilogy and Legends versus Brotherhood, and Thrawn trilogy, of course, won that out. We had Light of the Jedi versus the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, and High Republic won out against that. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith novelization beat out Thrawn the canon novel, so that one's going far. And we had the Rising Storm versus the Darth Bane trilogy, and Rising Storm beat out Darth Bane, which led us to the semifinals, which had only 2 matches.
Rising Storm, is that High Republic?
That was High Republic. Yeah, that was the second book of the High Republic trilogy. I didn't think that one was that good, but
was that the one where they're at the like the county fair?
Yeah, that was the one that took place at the fair. Yeah, that's right.
Oh man, that was like the worst one.
I know, right? Like I don't know why that was so voted for. But,
like we read a few of the High Republic books now, and that was hands down the worst.
Definitely
the series so far.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, we had Thrawn.
I just couldn't get past the pie eating contest being like the main climax.
It's like a whole chapter. We had the Thrawn trilogy and Star Wars Legends versus Light of the Jedi, the High Republic novel, and it was a bit of a close call, but Light of the Jedi won between that and the Thrawn trilogy and Legends, so that was a bit of a surprise. We had Revenge of the Sith novelization versus the High Republic, the Rising Storm, and the High Republic Rising Storm beat it out. So the final match was the Rising Storm from the High Republic versus Light of the Jedi in the High Republic, and Light of the Jedi won as the most voted for book in YouTini Book Madness. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't even know what to say.
I don't know what
surprising.
to say. Yeah, because okay, Dan, what do you? So like, I mean, we've just been caught up with the scores. Have you read any of these books that have kind of?
I've only read 4 Star Wars books, and that's Splinter, The Mind's Eye, and the Thrawn trilogy.
You just like Splinter of the Mind's Eye because Luke and Leia get together.
No, that was the first Star Wars book ever written, and I'm that old.
Yeah, I'm just bugging.
No, okay. So the High Republic era is I'm not gonna lie. It's good. We all thought Light of the Jedi was a great Star Wars book. I don't think it really earns its place in this particular elimination madness thing as the best Star Wars book ever.
There is better books. That's the thing.
For sure.
It was enjoyable, but there's others that are even more better, like Plagueis.
Yes, yeah, like Plagueis was a much better book. I can't believe that didn't beat out the first canon Thrawn novel, and it wasn't even that close. Like it was like Thrawn had 590 points versus 474 for Darth Plagueis, so it was a bit of yeah, but I was very glad to see that the Revenge of the Sith novelization made it that far. I have a really hard time believing that the Rising Storm beat it out, only because I didn't feel like that one was that great that it should even have made it to the semifinals. But no offense to Kevin Scott, but it's just like I don't know, like I didn't really connect with the book. The Revenge of the Sith novelization though has so many people kind of always just saying that's like one of the greatest books ever written.
Wow! I've actually never read it. Maybe I should check it out.
It is that good. A fun fact.
Did they go past the movie? Like, is there like a lot of extra stuff in it or something?
There is, yeah, and there's a fun fact actually, because technically the novelization for that book I don't believe is considered canon as far as like the new Star Wars canon goes. Only the Disney movies novelizations have had books in which they've called them the expanded editions of the films, where those are technically considered canon. But it is based on the movie, and it was done in collaboration with George Lucas. So I feel like it's kind of it's like a weird gray area. But at the very end of the credits in Revenge of the Sith, there is a mention to the Del Rey novel, where you can like read the Del Rey novel or something. It's the very, very tail end of the credits. Which I thought was really interesting. I never even noticed that before. Matthew Stover's Revenge of the Sith novelization is mentioned in the film in the credits. So that was, I guess it could be considered canon. But there's a lot to enjoy there. If you weren't a big fan of the movie, or if you felt like the movie could have been longer, or you liked the story but in the way it didn't enjoy the way it was executed on screen, I think maybe the novel is probably a great Star Wars book to pick up and check out, because there's a lot in there that even current Star Wars authors have like referenced to in their books, just because it's that good. I know that's what Mike Shen was doing with Brotherhood. I think we talked about and reviewed Brotherhood recently, and there was a few things in there that he kind of called back to in Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, there we go. That's YouTini Book Madness, and congrats, I guess, to Charles Soule, Light of the Jedi, as coming out on top as the most voted for Star Wars book. So
I am curious though, like, where do people vote? Is it on the YouTini website?
It was on the YouTini social platforms. So if you follow YouTini on Twitter or Instagram, they daily put out like polls where you could just vote for your favorite. So that's basically what people were doing for a good long while there. I think their Instagram polls were in their stories, and then their Twitter polls were just in the form of a tweet. So,
did they say how many people voted?
When you click on the Twitter poll, I think it does tell you how many votes there are. But in the Instagram one, I can't remember.
Does it say how many voting accounts had like accounts with only child privileges that were locked up, limited?
Yeah, and I have no idea. But it's they combined the results, so they tallied up all of the votes and kind of pit them against each other with Instagram plus Twitter results, and came out with that final number, which comes down to the points system that they have. So I guess every vote was a point. So when you see something that has like 512 points or whatever, it's probably that many votes across 2 platforms of polls.
What if it was like one like clever middle school student who was able to just make a bunch of bot accounts?
Well, that would be quite something and a lot of effort for something that's very not important.
If that was you and you're listening to this podcast, please contact, because we would love to interview about how you voted on this.
We would also love to talk to you about who's going to win next year.
Yeah, maybe we could have a raffle who we want it to be and then set it up.
Yeah, get some bribes going on. Darth
Do some
Plagueis.
campaigning.
Yeah.
Get the other books up there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Darth Plagueis, by the way, Dan, you got to check out Darth Plagueis, man. If you haven't read that.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
It's an amazing
It's
one.
really good, yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that kind of summarizes things up for this week. I mean, we've got another great episode of Mandalorian next Wednesday, or I guess this upcoming Wednesday, which closes up season 3. Then we got a book review that we're going to do on the podcast as well for, which book is it called? Fallen Star?
It's been so long, I don't even remember.
High Republic Phase 1, Book 3, Fallen Star. Yeah. So we'll talk about that one. And Jedi Survivor's around the corner. We're gonna do a brief mention for that, of course, at some point. We'll have to play it first.
Oh, that's like next week, isn't it?
Yeah, like it
Or 2 weeks.
releases in 2 weeks or something like that. And
Dang.
yeah, it's so soon. And so we'll have to play it for a bit. I'm gonna try and binge it. I don't know when we'll do the review for that. Maybe we'll do a preliminary review right away, and then we'll kind of do like a full story breakdown review maybe in like a month or 2 afterwards. Just so we all have kind of time to play it and get the story out of the way. And we were told by Cameron Monaghan, do not spoil the game, the ending for anybody, because it's apparently just that awesome. So he said that on Celebration Stage, just as a heads up to everybody out there. No spoilers. So, Dan, it was awesome having you on again. It was
Thanks
great
for having
you
me.
back. Yeah,
This was fun.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun to have you pop on again. And thanks again for Darian. He probably had to escape for a dinner or something like that. Who knows? But thanks again to him for popping back on as well. And Blake, of course, as always, thank you again for co-hosting the episode. And I guess we'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah, it was a good time. Thanks for having me. And to all our listeners, we'll see you out there. Keep flying.
All right, thank you to our listeners, and thank you so much for all those tuning in on our home platform Podbean. We see the follows coming in, the subscribers, so that's great. And for all those guys, all of those of you tuning in on Podcast Guru, it's we're being featured right now, Podcast Guru, because of Star Wars Celebration, which is great. You can find us on their homepage. And thanks again to Podcast Guru for helping us out like that. So all those using that app, you can check us out there. And if there's any way you want to follow us on the socials, you can use the handle at SW Escape Podcast, or email us swescapepodcast@gmail.com. Join the Discord. That's where the conversation's happening. We'd love to hear from you guys. And I guess we'll see you in the next episode of Star Wars Escape Pod. May the Force be with you.